Welcome back to Loose Frame Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Martin Olch, and joining me today,
Sam Allen and
Birdie Doyle.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Morning.
Today is Theater Day because we are going to be hosting the brand new incoming CEO of Tampa Theatre. But also we are going to be saying goodbye to the current CEO, John Bell, who we have also done a podcast with before. We're going to get into all that in a second here, but before we set this up, because I don't think we did a good job in the interview, what is Tampa Theatre?
The Tampa Theatre is a nearly 100-year-old movie palace. It's 1926. It opened here in Tampa. It has seen the silent film era, the transition to talkies. It has one of the few remaining Wurlitzer theater organs that's still in its original theater. This is like a piece of living history. It is so insane. And George Levesque, our incoming CEO, feels very much like a royal wedding. It feels like we have a new king because it's just such a big deal. It's so iconic to Tampa, to the culture, and to the history that this is huge. And to be able to see the 100th year anniversary, that's insane too.
Yeah, it's amazing too. And John, he's been there for so long, and it's going to be such big shoes to fill. But I'm really confident about this new CEO.
We talk about it in the interview, but he has been with the Tampa Theatre for over 40 years, almost as long as I have been alive. I'm a little older than that. But there's not a time that most people living in Tampa right now, or for been to Tampa Theatre, where they can remember where John wasn't part of the theater. So it really is a piece of the theater itself that's just kind of not going away, but it's just not going to be there anymore.
It definitely feels like a royal. It feels like a transition, right? We previously interviewed him with Jill Witecki, who I think whenever she leaves, it'll feel kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
There's always been Jill, and she does such a great job. So their episode was back in season 3, I think. So check that out.
Yeah, we'll link it in the description below. But before we go any further, real quick setup. What's your favorite Tampa Theatre memory before we transition?
Such a good one. I think my favorite Tampa Theatre memory was going to see Psycho on the big screen.
Okay, that's a great one.
Yeah, I love Nightmare on Franklin Street, and they do every October, and so that was the first time I actually got to see Psycho on the big screen, even though it's my favorite movie, and I was just like, oh, and it had the perfect seats. I don't know, there's nothing quite like it. How about you, Birdie?
I had a couple. I was going to say my ghost encounter, but it's not that interesting. I think I've told it before. I went with Jesse, and I don't remember what I think it was movie theater day. We were doing a post for movie theater day, and so we went to like Screen Door when we had Screen Door still. And Greenlight and Sunray and all them. Well, not Sunray. But then we went to Tampa Theatre, and they just so happened to be doing, they had a UT class that was watching silent films, Buster Keaton films, with the professor, and they had the Wurlitzer and the organ player there to accompany it. So we got to sit in, and we did a Nicole Kidman, where you're never sad at the movie, or whatever it is. I don't know it. But that was really cool. And then it turned out that was a professor that I had at UT, and so I got to see him and be like, oh my God, hey. He didn't remember me.
I will save mine for the back end of this episode. You mentioned the Mighty Wurlitzer, and I might have a story about the Mighty Wurlitzer.
Love to hear it.
But with that, we will now transition to our interview with George Levesque and John Bell, who we're sadly saying goodbye to. But please enjoy this amazing interview and all the history and heart that has gone into preserving a 100-year-old theater here in Tampa Bay. And with that, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Loose Frame Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Tyler Martin Olch, and joining me once again, my friend John Bell, CEO, or I should say retiring CEO of Tampa Theatre, and the brand new incoming CEO of Tampa Theatre, George Levesque. Did I say that right?
You did. Nailed it.
Wow. First try. All right. Well, John, you've been on the podcast a couple times.
Yep.
Twice. We did a spotlight with you guys years ago when we first started out, and then you and Jill were a guest, and now we have George here. But this is a bit of a bittersweet episode because we're saying goodbye to someone that I've worked with now for 14 years, even though you've been at the Tampa Theater for, 40 plus years?
Over 40.
Which is almost as long as I've been alive. I'm a little older than that, but not by much. Not to date you at all.
That's dating me.
But you've been a fantastic partner.
Thank you.
We wouldn't be the film commission we are today without the iconic Tampa Theater behind us for all of our events, all of our marketing collateral. It all has Tampa Theater's DNA built into it. And
That's
it really
very
has
nice to
become
say.
synonymous, not only with the city, but I think with filming at large in Tampa Bay. And again, you've been an amazing partner. So let's kind of start there. It's been over 40 years. You're walking out the door. You're leaving it in good hands. We'll get to George here
Absolutely.
in a bit. But where is Tampa Theater right now? We're just about to reopen in a couple months for the 100th anniversary, and that was a huge uplift to make that happen. Where is Tampa Theater today as you walk up the door?
Well, Tampa Theater is undergoing a major restoration, the largest one in its history. And so right now, the main historic auditorium, Duncan Auditorium, is closed because it is full of scaffolding from floor to ceiling. And every square inch of the plasterwork and the paint is being restored. That's actually kind of the simple part. Not that that's simple,
Yeah.
but the challenge is behind all of that is we're putting in the modern networks that a venue in the 21st century needs to have, theatrical networks, communication networks, fiber optics, all of that kind of technology. We're replacing the entire air conditioning system, a lot of infrastructure work. So it's a very exciting time for the theater. And 5 or 6 years ago, the board and the staff, we all sort of were staring at this date of October 15th, 2026, which is the theater's 100th anniversary. And we thought, gee, wouldn't it be great if we could fully restore the theater in time and present it back to the community as a gift for its 100th birthday? And at that point, we'd raised $0. But thanks to the groundswell of community support, this project is $24 million. In its first phase, it'll complete in September. And then there's some more work to be done down the road. But when you say you're going to restore the Tampa Theater, what most people think of is the paint and plaster. And the work that's being done, I know you've peeked inside. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
The amount of work, and every day when I walk in, I see more progress. And they're dealing with little tiny artist brushes for a lot of this detail. This is not like house painting. This is very intricate.
You said 23 million. Was that the correct amount?
24 in total.
24. Okay, 24 in total. Someone might sit there and say, "Well, how is that going to cost $24 million to repaint a theater and upgrade some piping?" But as someone who owns a 105-year-old house, you can't touch anything without it seeing 5 other things need to be fixed, right?
Yeah,
and
it's
I
a total
remember on
domino effect.
the hard hat tour I went on, you have remnants of knob and tube wiring. You have power that was put in, I think I was told, in the 65 to 70 range. Then you had another upgrade in the 90s. And it's like a Frankenstein's monster of electrical piping. I know you guys are putting in a brand new elevator shaft, and lo and behold, you dig the base for it, and what do you expose? Piping you didn't know was part of the city that needed to be removed.
Yeah.
So $24 million goes very quickly.
It does, and particularly because it's not just that it's 100 years old, but it's a very large, complex building. It's 38,000 square feet, seats over 1,200, and all the things that go into a building like that, the plumbing, the electrical, the all that infrastructure is complex. And it's expensive to do it right. And one of the things that we insisted on was making sure that, particularly with what the public sees, that what they're going to see is an painstakingly authentic restoration. We could have cut corners and said, well, let's just slap some paint over there. But no, we went through literally a forensic paint analysis to figure out what the original paint scheme was. And we insisted that it be as accurate as possible, because I've always believed that, authenticity is a word that's thrown around a lot these days. But it's true that any brand worth its salt at its core has authenticity.
Yeah.
And for us, the historic theater part of the Tampa Theatre equation is the most important part. That's the true advantage that we have as an organization. It's a building that is too big for some things, too small for others. We don't control a single parking space. There are all these business disadvantages that we have. But the one true advantage that we have is that we are historic. And so we lean into that 100%. So that's part of the reason it costs so much.
And speaking to some of that authenticity, this isn't just slapping paint you bought at the Home Depot on a wall.
Nope.
If people who haven't been in Tampa Theatre, the first thing you notice when you walk in is just the majesty of it. And you can really tell the artisanry and professionalism that went into the original crafting of that building. And a lot of people who can work in that space don't exist anymore. So where did you even find people to come in? I mean, I guess there's architectural restoration people out there, but where did you find the team to come in and actually take the time and repaint everything?
Well,
restore everything?
Through conferences and the League of Historic American Theaters that George has been going to a lot as well. You meet these people, right? And so there was one firm that really stood out and named Evergreen Architectural Arts. And I got to know the owner, Jeff Green, 2 decades ago. And I followed their work, and I realized when I saw some of their work up close at other projects that these guys were the real deal. So they work in nothing but large-scale public spaces. So not just historic theaters, but they do state capitals. They do cathedrals. They did the New York City Public Library Reading Room. They did the U.S. Capitol Rotunda. So these people are at the top of the field. And so what they've done is they brought in a core group this time of about 8 specialists. There's a plaster specialist who's recasting some molding to replace some broken molding that we have, filling in holes, gaps, doing the plaster work. And then there are they're painters, they're colorists, and then they augment that, and they've added about 7 or 8 people locally that they were able to find, and their supervisor was telling me the other day that a lot of times they go into cities and it's kind of a mixed bag in terms of what they get, but he was so happy with the quality of the talent that they were able to find locally to fill out their army. So they've got about 15 people working every day.
That's awesome to hear. Working at any job for 40 years, you build up a Rolodex of contacts that is unique to you. It's something you've spent all the time and effort in building. And I have to imagine stepping down, you want to know that the next person taking over that position is going to do equally as good a job as you left the building.
Absolutely.
In. I have to imagine, to bring George now in the conversation, that you just don't post in a classified section in a paper for a new CEO to run a historic theater, 100-year-old theater. So where do you even begin to start that search? And what was the criteria you were looking for to replace yourself?
Right. Well, first of all, we had a succession plan in place that I wrote, the board approved about 5 or 6 years ago. And it was in 2 parts. One is, what happens if I get abducted by aliens suddenly? And who's going to fill in? Who's the interim? Where's the authority lie? How do you take care of signatory? All the details associated with that. And the second part was the retirement aspect. And so how do we handle that? So I had recommended in that plan a couple of firms for the board to engage to do the search, to do the lifting, and ultimately it's the board's decision, but you need somebody who's really in the field to know where to look. So we hired a woman named Margaret Genovese. I've known her for 3 decades, and this is what she does. She knows everybody, I think, in the cultural field in North America. She, in fact, was the search person who landed Greg Holland for the Straz. And she and I have known each other. She's known the Tampa Theatre, so I reached out to her. We brought her on board, and then she did her thing. So I think we ended up, she reached out. She knows where to post. She made calls. And there were a couple of names when she asked me, are there any names that pop up? And of course, in my mind, I started thinking of my colleagues, and then I realized, they've all retired. And then I gave her 3 other names, and one of them was George's name. And I didn't know George that well. We'd met a couple of times before, and he was very well respected. He actually won an individual award from the League of Historic American Theaters one year before I won the same award the next year. So he's got good street cred there. But I was thrilled to see that he had actually thrown his name in the hat. And from there, the board narrowed it down, and they did, the finalists and whatnot. And George ended up being the unanimous choice, and I was thrilled. I was so happy.
Well, let's get George into the conversation now. George, you're no stranger to historic theaters. You're coming from Abilene, Texas, which for those who've never been to Abilene, I have actually. I've been to the Paramount. It's about 2.5, 3 hours west of Dallas, depending on traffic. It is a very small community, I think, compared to some of the bigger cities in Texas. And you're kind of in the middle of the state right before you get to the tall T part.
Well done.
Yeah. It's not a place you'd think to drive through and say, oh, here's a historic theater. So first, tell us a little bit about the Paramount Theatre, and then how you discovered or heard about the Tampa Theatre and what made you want to transition from Abilene to Tampa, because it's a very different city.
It's a 3-part question, sir.
It is.
No, the Paramount Theatre is remarkably a lot like the Tampa Theatre.
Mm-hmm.
So the Tampa Theatre is one of about 100 atmospheric theaters left in America. And another one of those is the Paramount Theatre that you went and saw in Abilene, Texas. About the same size theater, which makes zero sense.
Mm-hmm.
It has about 1,200 seats, or about 1,100 now that we did some reseating. But that's in a community that was 18,000 when they built it in 1930. It has now grown to about 125, 130,000. So it's kind of finally grown into that size facility. But it is remarkable, as you just mentioned. It's interesting that you noted that a city that size was able to keep that theater, because those theaters were everywhere. You look at a picture of the Tampa, right across the street was the Florida Theater. There were theaters up and down that street. And it was the same way in Abilene, Texas. But somehow they saved one of them.
That's amazing. So what made you want to pick up stakes and move your life to Tampa?
Never thought I would leave. I would have put big money on staying forever.
Have you always been in
Abilene.
Texas, by the way?
Always.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up, I was born
Texan.
65 miles away, so that was the big town, that you came and saw Star Wars in 77 when it opened. That's where we went, was Abilene, Texas, to see that. It's where you did your back to school shopping, got your tough skin jeans at Sears. That was the big town. And so we moved there. I went to college there, and I stayed. I was a journalist for about 18 years in journalism, about 7 years in radio before that. The theater was my favorite place in town by far. Maybe my favorite place in the world. I just absolutely adore that place. So it was a big part of who we were.
For those who are not watching, you might not have seen it on George's face, but your face lit up the same way talking about the Paramount and the magic of movies as John's does every time he talks about Tampa Theatre.
Yeah.
And that just gave me goosebumps that I haven't met you prior to today. I feel just after that conversation that the theater's going to be in good hands.
Can I tell you how I discovered the Tampa? Because that was part of your original question. So a friend of mine, his name is Mike, and he runs the Los Angeles Historic Theater Foundation. And we got to be buddies. And so we've traveled 2 or 3 different places. And of course, we met at the League of Historic American Theaters, and we'd go on rambles and look at theaters. And we really got into these atmospheric theaters, obviously. He's into them. I am so into them. And we have flown to see some. And we thought we knew the prettiest one in America. We thought it was the Majestic Theater in San Antonio. No offense if you're watching from the Majestic Theater in San Antonio. It's a gorgeous Eberson Theater as well.
Yep.
But he called me one day about a year and a half ago, and he said, I was wrong. The nicest theater in America is in Tampa. We got to go. So we got in a plane and we flew there last February or March for the Academy Awards event. We wore our tuxedos and walked inside. We got to meet John. We got to meet Jill. We got to meet the staff. They invited us back the next day, and we got to go into all the places we probably shouldn't be going into, kind of like with your tour, and seeing all the nooks and crannies. So when I found out about the job from Margaret, I was like, I already fell in love with that place. And by the way, he was right. I haven't seen all 100 atmospheric theaters in America, but my Lord, the Tampa Theater is astonishing, and it is architecturally important.
Yeah.
Not only for the city of Tampa, but for the state of Florida and probably the United States.
It is one of those impressive buildings. Anytime we bring filmmakers into town, that we always drive past, and we have an opportunity to bring them inside. And there's that wonderment when you walk into the lobby and you walk into the actual auditorium. But it's not until you walk out from underneath the balcony and you look up
And it opens up.
You were just shocked.
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea something like this existed. And I've done this tour with so many filmmakers and just people in general that are visiting. We're taking on a fam tour of Tampa, and they walk out from underneath that balcony and they are just, like Joyce would say, aesthetic arrest. They're just immediately taken by it, and they stop and they stare mouth open. And that's a really cool feeling.
Yeah.
I have to imagine you had a similar feeling when you walked out from underneath that balcony and looked up as well.
Oh, absolutely. I was blown away. And again, I'm used to atmospheric theaters and about the same size atmospheric theater. And I love the Paramount Theater. I always will. But there's something about the Tampa that it's just so ornate and so over the top in all the best ways. It really is just a gorgeous example of Eberson's.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Tampa now. Then you're moving from a town of a little over 100,000 people to a town of just under 1 million right now, and I believe we're projected to be over 2 million by the year of 2035. So we were expanding greatly. How does a theater like Tampa Theatre, in your opinion, coming from a small town to a large town, reinforce the cultural identity of the area and the importance of it? How does it not get overshadowed by all these large buildings going up around it?
I think you got to know your place. The Straz Theater down there, they've got a hall that holds thousands and thousands and thousands of people. They've got a stage that is gigantic, and they're going to put on a Broadway show, and we're never going to put on a Broadway show at the Tampa Theater. It's just not who we are. So you find your identity and you embrace it. And I think that's the reason John has been so successful for those 40 years, is he realized film is where we're at, and we need to do other things as well. But we need to own that. And it's also just grabbing hold of your past and embracing it. And I think we have to keep up with that. He talked about authenticity with architecture. Authenticity matters with programming as well.
Yeah, absolutely does.
Yep.
And I think taste plays a big part of that too, and knowing what to program, not just to service the community for the tentpole movies that people might want to see on the weekend, but to challenge them and expose them to things that they wouldn't otherwise experience. Yeah. So I'll put you on the spot, John.
Okay.
As you're passing the torch to George, what were some of those qualities when you were interviewing him that told you this was the right choice?
Well, first of all, I was not on.
Well, let's say the board.
Yeah,
and
I wasn't
sure
on the search committee,
feedback.
and by design, I was not on the search committee, and I didn't have a vote. I mean, certainly the board, would come and call me and say, "What do you think?" But I think, and this isn't about me, but just the fact that I've been here for 40 years. I mean, one of the criteria that the job description, the posting actually articulated was the emotional maturity to follow a long-term leader, because it can be difficult, right? If I actually believe that if you took the census of our entire staff, including our part-time front of house staff, probably half of the staff was born after I started at Tampa Theatre 40 plus years ago. So for many people, they've never known a theater without me at the helm. So knowing that change always causes some anxiety, you need to find someone who is steady, emotionally mature, and so far you seem to be emotionally mature.
Thank you.
Okay.
Honeymoon hasn't worn off.
Yeah. Give it another couple of weeks.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll see. But there's that also experience with operating a historic theater, because you can operate a cinema, or you can be in the arts, you can operate a performing arts venue, but there are certain issues that you face and have to deal with when you're operating a historic theater that you don't in any other line. So I mean, it's the combination of the experience, the personality, the emotional maturity, and just the passion. I mean, that's hard to really discern in an interview. You certainly can't qualify it or quantify it. But what I was hoping for, and I know that what we found, you were talking about it, what he was talking about the Paramount, you got goosebumps because of excitement for it, but that's the passion that I have for the Tampa Theater, and that George brings to the table too, because passion is everything. It doesn't matter whether you're on stage giving a curtain speech or whether you're raising funds in the boardroom. Passion bends reality, and he's certainly demonstrated that.
Well, you use the word authentic too, and I don't think you can fake passion. If you try, the audience, people around you, know it's fake. You can tell you're putting on airs. Yeah. When you see someone who comes in and is truly passionate, it engages with people in a way that you don't find otherwise. So George, stepping into this role now, what are you most excited about beyond the next couple of months with the restoration and the grand reopening? Like, what is your spin that you're uniquely bringing to the Tampa Theater that you're hoping to implement and see grow over the next couple of years?
Well, yeah, programming wise, I'm going to have to get my bearings on that too. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And considering we're not really completely in operation right now, that may take longer than I think a typical transition. The thing that I'm most excited about is working with the staff. Through the interview process, I met Jill and Kathy and Devin and some of the vice presidents, and I thought, oh my, they really know what they're doing. And then you meet everybody else on the staff, and you're like, holy cow, John has put together a team, and they're not just very qualified and good at their job, but everybody I've met has that same passion for the theater. And it only works if they all care about the theater just as much. You can't have any passengers with that. So that's the thing I'm most excited about, is working with that many people who are that good at their jobs. And let's free some ideas and see what they want to do. Yeah. You're really going to rely on that staff for a lot of reasons, but you don't lose 40 years of institutional knowledge and a guy with, a couple of months institutional knowledge, at least at the Tampa Theater. I'm going to have to rely on that staff. And thank goodness they are there. And thank goodness they know as much as they do.
No, that's a great shout out. We do so many events during the year at Tampa Theater, and the staff is always just phenomenal, above and beyond the expectations of any of us. And from even people greeting at the door, right? There is that just passion, and that, I'm walking into a special place where the people care about not only the presentation, the preservation of it, but the interactions with the people coming through the door as well.
And that matters.
It does. It absolutely matters. Yeah. It really makes it into a special experience. So let's talk a little bit about the grand reopening. Full disclosure, things can happen as you do construction. We don't necessarily have a locked-in date, I don't think. But if you look into your crystal ball, what should we be looking forward to when the doors reopen?
It's a great question. And I will say that we're meeting about that. The Tampa, I think they really put some thought into this, and they've got some ideas. But they kind of they wanted to wait till the new president got here so that I could have some input as well. So we're literally having meetings soon about, okay, let's solidify what we're going to do. Let's figure it out. It's going to be a fun weekend. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to celebrate all the donors that came up with $24 million to do that. And we're going to do something that nods to the past. Yeah. That's all I can really say at the moment.
And for people listening, and maybe you don't go to the Tampa Theater very often, Tampa Theater is not completely closed right now. The Taylor Theater is still running. You still have great programming all summer long. I just want to make sure people know that you can still interact with Tampa Theater while they're closed.
You can still get your popcorn fix.
Yes, you can. Yeah. Which was some of the best popcorn in town, by the way.
In the world.
Absolutely agree with that. So we need to wrap it up here in a bit. But before we do, John, just some final thoughts as you're finishing up your kind of retirement rounds in the media. What are you going to miss the most about your day-to-day that has been with you for 40 years that you're going to wake up and say, I don't have to do that anymore?
What I'm going to miss the most, it's clearly the people. I've been blessed with phenomenal staff down through the years, and I've gotten better and better at hiring really brilliant people. And that's honestly the only thing that I will take credit for, is the brilliant staff, is hiring them. In fact, we were in a group meeting just a couple of weeks ago, and there was a lot of laughter going on, and I was sort of looked around the room, and I said, yeah, this is what I'm going to miss. I do think, as I've often said in many media interviews over the years, the reason that I've stayed for 40 years is that you walk into that building every day. It's not a bad place to walk into every day, right? It's a spectacular building that in and of itself motivates you to make it better, to care for it. And so certainly I'll miss the building, but I'll have an opportunity to go back and visit, and I hope to very often as a patron. What I won't miss is, hopefully I'll get to this point where, I'll be sitting there watching an event, and then I'll notice that there's a light sconce on the left side that has a bulb that's burned out. I'm like, starting to text people about I can't, I've never been able to sit and 100% just let it go and enjoy an event inside Tampa Theatre. I mean, I've watched many of them, but being able to go just as a patron, that's going to be just still an honor.
I'm asking you this question without knowing whether you know the answer, but how many executive directors or CEOs have there been since the inception of the Tampa Theatre?
I don't know if you're talking about the past 100 years. That I don't know that we can discern that. I do know that when in the modern history of the theater, which is after the city of Tampa stepped in to rescue the building in the late 70s, that there were 2 directors before me, and I arrived in 85. We know the name, I think we know the names of some of the early general managers, but because it was operated by an amusement corporation, those people would cycle in and out.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, then I can at least say, George, probably with reasonable certainty, you're maybe one of a dozen that have stepped into this role, maybe, probably less, certainly in the modern era. Let me ask you now, going back to the Paramount, I'll give you the same question that I gave John to be fair to your former employer. What do you miss, or what are you going to miss most about walking into work every day at the Paramount?
Goodness gracious, he already stole the answer. It's the people that I worked with, and that is what I'm going to miss. The other thing I'm going to miss is I lived there my whole life.
Yeah.
So you walk outside and the restaurant's this way and the bar's over there, and where everything is. Everybody. You're literally waving at everybody you walk by downtown, because it was a smaller city, only 130,000 or so. You felt like you knew everybody downtown.
Yeah. Is there something about Tampa Bay now that you've moved here that you have experienced for the first time? Like, I'm going to come back to that.
Oh my Lord. This weekend I got in my car and I went up to Clearwater and then just took an hour and a half drive all the way down. I was at Gulf Boulevard, I believe it is, all the way down pretty much to the fort, south of St. Pete, and then came back into Tampa. And I was giving pictures to my wife going, we got to go here. We got to go here. We got to go here.
Yeah.
We lived in the middle of basically a cow pasture in Texas. You've been there. I mean, this is the plains. You're surrounded by ranches and oil wells, and here we are. This gorgeous Tampa.
It's funny you mentioned that. Even though I've lived here now since 2008, I just got back from a trip to Belize, and while I was in Belize, and beautiful, but I was like, I could see this every day, 20 minutes from my house. Like, why did I travel hours south in another country to see the same thing, and arguably better in Tampa Bay? So I'm glad to be back. Well, with that, we need to wrap things up. John, it has been a true pleasure working with you and your entire staff. You've done so much for the Tampa Theatre, so much for Film Tampa Bay, so much for the city of Tampa.
Thank you.
You really have. You're going to be greatly missed. I'm going to miss running into you out front of the hub as I'm walking by, or all of our events that we do throughout the year. You've been a steady hand that we've all come to rely upon. So
well, thank you.
We're
going to
miss you.
Send me invites to your event.
We absolutely will. Yeah. And then, George, I am really excited to work with you going forward. Again, we do all kinds of events at Tampa Theatre. Keep plugging that, because check out our social media for all upcoming events. It really is a staple in all of our fam tours. It's something that we are so proud of, and we're really looking forward to working with you and doing anything we can to help support the theater. So it's one great meeting you today, but also looking forward to working with you in the future. But with that, we need to wrap things up. I'll give you opportunity to pitch Tampa Theatre. I don't know which one wants to take this, but if you all want to rattle off your social media channels and how people can interact with you guys and learn more about what might be happening in the near future, where can people go?
People can always go to tampatheater.org. And I will say that, we're doing all of this work this year, and it's a big price tag, $24 million. But the work of preserving a historic structure like Tampa Theatre is never really done. So just as the community has supported the theater for many years, we're counting on you to continue to support the Tampa Theatre as it moves forward. So please make sure you welcome George, give the organization your continued support. And I appreciate everything that this community has done for the theater.
Gentlemen, it's been a true pleasure. And with that, we'll be right back. And welcome back. I love that. I'm not going to lie. I got a little teary.
Did you get a little misty-eyed?
Both of them, I don't know if you saw it on camera, but me sitting so close to them, they definitely got a little misty. John just talking about the staff, and George as well when he was talking about the Paramount Theater, which I think that is an example of how much blood, sweat, and tears people sometimes put into not just a job, but something that they really care about, right? And I think both of them cared about their respective theaters throughout their careers. Now I think George is going to come to love Tampa Theatre as much as he loved the Paramount.
Yeah, I think that's great that George is coming from a theater like that because he's going to have the perfect experience to transition into Tampa Theatre, and it feels good that it's in good hands.
Yeah. And John Bell's really confident in him. That was really clear in the interview.
Yeah, you can definitely tell. So here's some trivia for you. This is a John Eberson theater, as we set up and they talked about in the interview. John Eberson was born in 1875 in the Austro-Hungary Empire, which is now Ukraine, believe it or not. He built the Tampa Theater for $1.2 million.
Which in today's money...
Today's money is
$70 billion.
No, it's over $25 million in today's money. How much are they restoring the theater for? Over $30 million. So the restoration is costing almost as much as the original building was to build from the ground up. That's the kind of level of investment they're putting into maintaining this theater for another 100 years, which I think is really a great reflection of not only the people who've been restoring this theater and putting their time and effort into maintaining it, but the locals who've invested and sponsored and donated to this whole restoration project.
You know, sometimes sorry, Bree. Sometimes when I think about that, I think about it's like almost like rebuilding a cathedral. You know, they have all that care and expertise, and it kind of makes sense to me that they're spending that same amount because they want to preserve this piece of history. You know, we're surrounded by buildings that are, you know, beautiful, and Tampa is so much like that brick and that authenticity, and it just makes me feel good that they're keeping that with the Tampa Theater.
Yeah, and they mentioned also that Tampa, the restoration team found Tampa to be one of like the more talented cities when they were trying to fill out their teams. So that was cool too. Like they're really trying their hardest to make this as authentic as possible.
I've met a couple of the people who are kind of the department heads for the restoration on the various tours I've taken. And it is kind of interesting both hearing them talk about it, but also the people who are doing the restoration talk about how normally they have to bring in a lot of people from out of state or out of town to do these restoration projects. And there's so many talented artists in the Tampa Bay community that they were able to like kind of hand pick a team of locals who are as competent as some of the best restoration people in the world are, which I thought was cool.
Yeah. Seems to kind of parallel what we always say about our Tampa film crew.
Yes, we have deep, if somewhat unknown talent here in town. But once you scratch the surface, you realize that there are so many talented people in this area.
Oh my God, yeah. Working this job has been insane. Like I thought I knew some of the people from working my last job, but then I got here, I was like, oh, around every corner is someone interesting, and that's going to be, you know, bringing us something interesting that they're working on soon.
Yeah, right.
So
and what an amazing honor to be part of actually putting together the Tampa Theater. You know, all those locals having their like fingerprint on something. It's awesome.
I mean, this is
they
really,
should leave, like.
This is really creative and interesting work. You know, I kind of made a joke of it during the interview that you can't just go down to Lowe's or Home Depot to buy paint to slap on these walls. They're literally having to like break up eggshells and mix their own original paints to match the frescoes that are in the theater. They haven't done that since the 20s, right? I mean, you just can't go anywhere and find this stuff. You have to find someone who's knowledgeable enough to do these things.
Well, and knowledgeable in color theory and in construction of some kind, but also in chemistry. Like my sister is in college now and she's working towards her bachelor's, but then she has to do a master's and then like a whole in art restoration. She's got to go to like Europe and spend 3-4 years in Europe watching other people do it. It's like, it's insane the amount of detail that needs to go into it.
Yeah.
Because it could go sideways so fast. And the construction kind of has gone sideways a little bit. They've corrected, but they've found so much stuff. They found pipes they didn't know existed. They found like what cords they didn't know existed. I know Jill on social media found like a ton of empty Coke bottles from like 1940 or something. So it's hit a few snags, but they've managed to course correct and everything. And it's going really well.
And it's things that I don't even think the city knew were there.
And that's interesting, isn't it?
They're trying to, when they're updating the theater, they're trying to make it ADA compliant as well. And it is right now, but there's a lot of areas of the theater that cannot be accessed if you're in a wheelchair or disabled. So they're trying to put in an elevator shaft, right? Elevators did not exist, or at least not in Tampa Bay area in 1922, right?
Mm-hmm. And anyone who's gone to UT knows that the one in Plant Hall, like,
is scary and maybe
it's
works.
Scary,
maybe
horrifying, and you don't take it because it's just so old.
So they took out the downstairs bathrooms in the back, and they were sinking a new elevator shaft, and they cut open the floor, expecting there to be nothing there except for bedrock, and it's like, oh no, there's the sewer system for the city. And the city's like, we didn't realize it diverted there. It's like, how do you not know where your own pipes are at? But they didn't.
Oh, it's time before permits.
I'm like, how would you know? Go complain to the old mayor.
There has to be, at some point, these pipes have got to say. Anyway.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, and I mentioned it in the interview, like, I own a 104-year-old home. Mm-hmm. And you touch anything and you realize that, oh, no, there's like 100 years of repairs that have gone in behind this that probably weren't done up to the expectation of a modern person.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I was going through the back of the house with Lloyd, who's their longtime back of house manager, kind of an off the books tour, and everything's been stripped away, so you can really see where everything's at for the first time. And it's like there's old knob and tube wiring from the 20s, and there's wiring that was not up to code now, but was fine in the 1960s, and there's the modern wiring. And it's not like they just built on top of each other. They kind of just Frankenstein monstered it. So there's parts of it that's still knob and tube. There's parts of this that, and it's like, how did this place not burn down? And we're all kind of looking at each other. It's like, well, it probably should have. Like, it's kind of amazing.
It's insane.
But they're ripping all that out. They're modernizing everything. At the same time, they're preserving things. It is an atmospheric theater. And for those who've never been in an atmospheric theater, the idea behind it was to bring the outside in. So if you've never been to the Tampa Theater, you go in and it's very, very dark, and it looks like you are walking into a Mediterranean or an Italian villa at night. Like just as the sun's going down, the stars are first starting to come out. There's a little bit of a hint of a sunset behind the architecture, but it doesn't get any brighter than that. That's what everyone thinks when they walk into the Tampa Theater. It's like, oh, they'll turn the house lights on. There are no house lights. Like it does not get brighter than that. Yeah. So there are details that I have never, and I've been at the Tampa Theater now hundreds and hundreds of times, that I have never seen. And even John Bell, who's been there for 40 years, had also never seen, because to restore this, they had to bring in these huge halogen lights that lights up everything, almost like you're sitting out under the sun, so they can really see the details to be able to repair things. And it's like, oh my gosh, there is so much that was put into this that the architect knew would never be seen, but they still put in that level of detail just because they were perfectionists. It's really amazing.
It's very it is like a cathedral.
Yeah. Are they still doing public hard hat tours?
They are, but I think the public hard hat tour is most exciting because you can go up the scaffolding and touch the ceiling. Mm-hmm. They're almost done with the ceiling. I think they're going to start bringing the scaffolding down. So I think that portion of the hard hat tour is coming to a close, if not already closed by the time this podcast comes out. I did have an opportunity to go up. It's amazing, just the level of detail they put into this thing. I mentioned my favorite memory of the Tampa Theater.
Hear it.
Yes, please tell us.
It kind of teased at the opening here. So as Bertie mentioned, they have one of the only remaining original Wurlitzers in the world.
In their original theater.
In the original theater.
In their original theater. Because there's more, not that many more, but there's more that have been moved around. They're in museums, they've been restored, whatever. This one has been in its original theater for 100 years. So that's interesting.
It has not, actually.
Oh.
It is now in its place, but it is the original organ, the Wurlitzer organ, that was built specifically for the Tampa Theater. But it was removed in I want to say like the late 60s, early 70s, and sold to a local church.
Oh, dang. I did not know that.
And the local church, I don't know if they were renovating, remodeling, or whatever, but eventually they were like, hey, we got to get rid of this organ. We're not using it anymore. And the Tampa Theater was able to reclaim that original Wurlitzer. Mm-hmm. So yes, it is the exact original Wurlitzer from opening day. It's just not consecutively. Mm-hmm. But again, it is one of the oldest Wurlitzers in the world. It's maintained really well, and I broke it.
No.
Well, not me specifically. There is if you go to the Gasparilla International Film Festival, before every movie, there is, I did this before Nicole Kidman, by the way, there is a walk and talk of me going through the theater, explaining what the Gasparilla National Film Festival is and take your garbage away, silence your cell phones, all that stuff, right? Well, we were filming it there, and I'm on the second floor balcony, and I'm in the middle of a take, and all of a sudden, and it's on camera somewhere, there is B-roll of me saying the exact thing. You hear this catastrophic banging, and I stopped dead in the middle of my lines, and I said, "They broke the world, sir. I know it." And I wasn't even looking that direction, but something told me something really bad went wrong. So we all walk out to the end of the balcony. We look down on the stage, and there's a bunch of crew standing around this giant open hole, and they're all like, "Oh my God, what did we do?" So for those who haven't been to Tampa Theatre, the Wurlitzer comes up and down on an elevator lift from the kind of the center to left of the stage, if you're looking at it from the seats. And it's probably 10, 15-foot drop, maybe a little more, maybe 20-foot drop. And there's a giant wooden plug that weighs hundreds of pounds that is moved in and out of place to cover up the hole if they need to use the entirety of the stage. Well, trained professionals are supposed to be doing this. And instead, some of our industrious crew thought they would do it themselves.
No.
And it has to be sat in the hole in a very specific way, otherwise it won't catch. And it's very heavy. I mean, it's very heavy. I'm going to guess 600-700 pounds. Like it takes 4 grown men to pull this thing. Someone let go of their side too early, and it dropped, and it landed on top of the Wurlitzer. And it broke the top of it. And I'm sitting there upstage just like, I can't afford to fix this. Like, our insurance, I don't think, can afford it. How do you fix
a mighty Wurlitzer theater organ?
That you'd have to go to Europe to find the parts
have to bring the damn thing to Europe.
Long story short, the crew behind the stage were able to fix it over a couple of weeks by meticulously gluing parts back together. It was not anything mechanical. It was all cosmetic damage to it. Thank God. But yes, there is a take of me somewhere on a hard drive of me saying, expletive, they broke the Wurlitzer.
It's insane that that's your favorite memory.
Well, it's
the most interesting memory.
Yeah, I don't think anyone else has that story.
I have heard that story so many times, and I'm mad every time. I'm stressed every time. I'm mad every time.
Yeah. Well, and no one told them to do
race.
it. It was just a film crew doing what they do, which is
it's
restoring, the location back to how it looked before they got there. Okay.
It's one of those things where it's like, regardless of the circumstances, it's so rare that you're almost like, oh, yikes.
Yeah. Very
it's
locations go to 2. Oh.
Yeah.
I got a chance to sit down at it and play it a little bit, and they have a bird call pedal at on the floor that we, I think, put in Birdwatch right when I first started or something.
That's cute. I didn't know.
It
has dozens and dozens of sound effects.
Yeah, it's got like a train whistle and all that stuff.
It was used. It's a misnomer to say that the films were silent. They were never silent.
Yeah.
They were always played in accompaniment, if not by an orchestra, then a local band or an organ of some sort, right? And they didn't just play music; they also played sound effects that were actually in the liner notes, right, and in the musical notes. So if you're watching a Bugsy Berkeley film or a Charlie Chaplin film, there's a train. You're gonna play the train whistle, right?
Yeah.
Which is something interesting you can really only experience at Tampa Theatre. So if you mentioned seeing old silent films, right?
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity to see a silent film played with live musical accompaniment, it's completely different.
Oh my God. They do this every year. And I think with this summer, clearly with this summer, because they've been, under construction, they didn't. But I think it's the summertime that they usually do a silent movie marathon for a good, few weeks in a row. They always do a Buster Keaton. They always do a Charlie Chaplin. They always do someone else whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. But it's cool. And they have a resident organ player.
Yep.
So it's one person who comes in. It's really very
Dr.
nifty.
John Ball, who actually did a live score for us for the Flying Aces, which was an event we held there.
Yes, oh my gosh,
That the music itself had been lost to time.
Yeah.
So he had to actually go back and kind of recreated a score to accompany the film. I think he did an amazing job. It was a really great memory of seeing that movie, which hadn't been played in Tampa since its original release, I don't think. And it was only played at the Black Theater in town, which I think was a couple doors down from where Tampa Theater was. It's amazing. We kind of, I forget what it was called.
It was called like not the Majestic. That came up in the interview, the Majestic Theater, but I think it's like the Mystic or something. I remember, like that.
But Tampa had a decent sized population. But in 1922, there was multiple Tampa theaters, or at least looking like Tampa Theater, right, in the area. Tampa Theater was the very first to have air conditioning in the city. That was kind of their big thing. You see all those old photos of it. It's like, in very small letters, the name of the movie, and above it, giant billboard, "We have air conditioning," or "Enjoy ice cold air." But there was the Rialto. I think there actually was a Majestic. There were several theaters within a couple blocks, which showed you how often people actually went to the theaters, right?
Few in Ybor.
Yeah, few in Ybor. Well, it was when there was 3 in Ybor as well. But we didn't have Netflix, didn't have cable TV. So if you wanted entertainment, you had to go out as a community and go to the theater. You had to go out. So with that, we've gone a little long, but that was a great interview. I really enjoyed hearing George's perspective coming from another historic theater. And, he's lived in Texas his entire life. Yeah. In Abilene, Texas, or just outside of it. And that's got to be a different transition to, even though it's another Everson theater, it's another atmospheric theater, it's another historic theater, but Tampa's a very different community than other places. So I'm hoping he finds a really great home here and enjoys not only working at Tampa Theater, but the people that are associated with it. I think.
And Jill will show him the ropes, so I'm sure he'll grow to love Tampa real fast.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing that they both said before we end this, is that the people have been the best part of their careers. And from working in a movie theater, it's like there's definitely a difference between working in such a beautiful theater like Tampa Theater and having the history and everything and the culture all around you versus just working like a retail job, right? So it's cool that they both feel that way.
Yeah, and you can really tell that people that work at Tampa Theater really care about Tampa Theater. Yeah. And it's not only just by the joy that you see in people's faces, but the fact that people who work there have worked there for years and years, if not decades, because it is a kind of a treasured asset that we want to protect here in town. I think everyone who's associated with it appreciates that. So with that, we got to wrap things up. Lady, it's great talking with you as always. But Birdie, where can people find more about us?
This one's fun. This has changed so much. My spiel used to be like a sentence, and now there's so much more we've added. You can stream Loose Framing Podcast anywhere you stream podcasts, including YouTube Music, which is a new one for us, but we're up there. You can also watch us on YouTube or on Film Florida TV, our new streaming channel for all things film in Florida.
And with that, I also want to give a quick shout out, because I forgot at the top of the head, our sponsors, Blind Tiger, great partners of Tampa Bay at large. And also, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to this Telly Award-winning production of Loose Framing Podcast.
Yeah, I'm so proud.
Yes. And with that, guys, we will see you next time.